Hamilton White, Robert Stutz. Hey, gang, summer is flying by. Summer is just flying by. Some rain coming our way in the Northeast this weekend. If you're looking for something fun to do, Parks Casino. Bet Parks, they've got your seat at the table with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games right on your phone and wherever you are in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. I mean, truly the beauty of it is that you can be sitting in the backyard, and as long as you've got your phone, you've got the opportunity to play live baccarat, live roulette, live blackjack with a live dealer, which is fun and freaky the first time you do it. You're like, wait a minute, that's a live person. Summer's flying by. If you're at the beach, the boat, the boardwalk, the Poconos, the campground, the lake, your backyard pool, wherever you might be, make your downtime fun time with Parks. Download the Bet Parks app. Enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. There's a special deal for new users, and it's this. You download the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app. You get up to a $1,000 casino bonus back. If you're down in the first 24 hours, that casino bonus has got to be wagered. So have some fun. Bet with your head, not over it. As they say, you got to be 21, and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, or Michigan, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. Bet Parks. So I've got three really brilliant political minds on CNN with me today. David Axelrod and James Carville paired together. And we'll talk about what's been going on in the last month of the race and look forward to the Democratic National Convention this week in Chicago. And then Frank Luntz, who is the Republican wordsmith, pollster, focus group, messaging guru, will join me in a separate block to talk about the gender divide, specifically the gender divide. I have often said, backed up by data, that education is the best predictor of how people are going to vote in the presidential race. You tell me someone's level of education, and I can usually tell you how they'll be voting. I'm going to have to modify that now because of the gender divide in this race. According to New York Times and Siena College data, I went back and forth by email last night with Harry Enton, who's the number cruncher extraordinaire from CNN, because I watched a report that he did with Kate Baldwin, and it was kind of stunning. I took notes, so let me just see if I can report this accurately. Let's talk about men first. Let's talk about men. When it was Trump versus Biden, Trump had a 9-point advantage nationally among men. 9-point advantage. Trump versus Harris, 9-point advantage nationally. No change. Trump wins among men, whether it's Biden or whether it's Harris, nationally by 9 points. This is interesting, and I can't explain it. And frankly, Harry couldn't explain it to me either. If you look at Trump versus Biden and isolate on Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, his advantage grows from 9, which it was nationally, to 17. Trump's advantage among men in those 3 battleground states is 17 points. Against Harris, it diminishes slightly. It's 15 points. I cannot explain why those 3 states would have an even greater advantage for Trump among men. But the point is, nationally, whether it's Harris or Biden, Trump is up by 9 points among men. Even more in the 3 states. Okay, now let's talk about women. What do we see? When it was Trump versus Biden, Biden led among women nationally by 4 points. By 4 points. Replace Biden with Harris, and those 4 points nationally grow to 11. That's significant. So nationally, Trump ahead by 9 among men. Nationally, Harris up by 11 among women. Really a stunner. And now the curiosity part, the margins again are even greater. I got to book somebody on this specific issue. What is it that sets apart Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that there is a greater gender divide in those states than there is nationally? Because Trump versus Biden among women, 10 points in those 3 states. It goes, Biden advantage among women in those 3 states, 10 points. I'm saying this slowly, both to explain it properly and also to keep my own head straight. When it's Trump versus Biden nationally among women, Biden by 4, but in those 3 critical states, it's Biden by 10. Okay, replace now Biden with Harris, and it grows to 17. Why would the average that Kamala Harris has among women be 11 points nationally, but 17 where it matters most? I don't know the answer. I do not know the answer. And frankly, Harry wasn't sure either. But he complimented me for zeroing in on something that others, I guess, had not focused on. Okay, Michael, it's early. It's Saturday. Like, I got out of bed just to hear what you have to say. Well, why are you confusing me with all the data? Okay, let me simplify. There is a distinct gender divide among the electorate in a Trump or Biden race, and even more so in a Trump versus Harris race. And that gender divide is even more pronounced in the 3 battleground states that matter the most. That's it. That's it. Gender divide. Gender divide. It is huge. So I'll talk about that today with Frank Luntz. With David Axelrod and James Carville, I want to pick up on some themes that I addressed with Mark Halpern this week. Both Donald Trump's self-destructive path and the way Harris has handled Trump, and the way that Harris has not been accessible to the media and to voters generally. This is really interesting. Yesterday, she put forth an economic proposal. I tweeted and I said that her delivery and her poise and her level of confidence was better than I ever remember seeing her. I don't know if you watched yesterday, but she just seemed really comfortable. You know, what's the comfortable in her skin, just, happy to be on that stage and not nervous about it. Now, substantively, and we haven't, heard her offer much substance until yesterday. This is interesting. This is the Washington Post. If this were National Review, if this were the New York Post, if this were a conservative Wall Street Journal, I wouldn't make a big deal of it. But a headline from the editorial board of the Washington Post accusing her of gimmickry. Vice President Kamala Harris's speech Friday was an opportunity to get specific with voters about how a Harris presidency would manage an economy that many feel is not working well for them. Unfortunately, instead of delivering a substantial plan, she squandered the moment on populist gimmicks. And it's not just the Washington Post. There's a CNN headline that says that it may cause more problems than it solves. And then, interestingly, I went looking for other reaction, and Bernie Sanders loved what she had to say. Well, that's not going to be helpful at a time when she needs to pivot toward the center. But what I want to go through with Axelrod and Carville is the progression of where we were 1 month ago today. Trump riding as high as he's ever been in the aftermath of the assassination attempt. This would have been today, a month ago, I think would have been day 3 of the Republican National Convention. So just sort of transport yourself in time. He was in the box for the first 3 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Didn't say anything, looked pensive. Is this a new Trump? Wow, maybe he's had an epiphany moment. And then he came out and he spoke on Thursday. He spoke too long. But when that convention ended, he looked invincible. He was winning every one of the battleground polls and the national surveys. And Joe Biden was clearly on the ropes. Remember all that had happened. He'd had the disastrous debate, Stephanopoulos. Somebody asked Stephanopoulos on Fifth Avenue, what do you think? I don't think he can serve. Clooney comes out of the closet and says, hey, guess what? The Biden that you saw in the debate is the same Biden we saw in Hollywood. Carville says, like, we got to make a change. Axelrod says the likelihood is that Trump wins by a landslide more than Biden wins by a narrow margin. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but you remember. And then comes the switcheroo. And it's a coronation. And she gets out on the campaign trail, and Democrats are totally fired up and enthused. And there's been a complete shift in this election. And I'm looking at a breaking headline while I'm talking to you. Literally just came in. Kamala Harris has stormed into contention in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. To go back to my conversation with Halpern, I'm left wondering how much of this was bound to happen and how much of this is because of Trump's nasty response. You know, calling her a bum, calling her a lunatic, questioning her black identity. I mean, he has been so narrow casting toward his base in opposite of the way he was handling himself back in the convention era a month ago. And when I raised all of this with Mark Halpern, if you were listening on radio on Wednesday, he sort of cautioned me and said, you know, like maybe it was going to happen anyway. And I thought about that, and I'm mindful of the data that said that 2/3 of Americans wanted a choice other than Biden or Trump. I always thought by extension, Harris would be viewed the same as Biden, but apparently not. And that pent-up demand for somebody other than Biden or Trump is now she's the beneficiary of that. But of course, it's been a bubble wrap launch. She has not sat for an interview. I went back and looked at the tape because when she was getting onto an airplane, somebody said to her, like, hey, what are you going to do, some media? And she said, you know, we're working on that by the end of the month. It was August 8 when she said that. August 8. I have to make sure I say that on TV today. Wait, August 8, like you're busy every other day? And that's why he's doing the media avails that he is, Trump, but he gets himself in trouble every time that he does them. But she's really, I mean, I get it from a strategic standpoint. If I were advising her, I'd be advising her to do the exact same thing. But it's not right. I mean, she's able to do it. She's able to do it because people are allowing, not demanding, that she answer questions, sit for an interview. And we have not seen her under fire. And the first time that she comes out with something of substance, you know, the Washington Post says it's a gimmick. So those are the themes that I'll discuss with David Axelrod and James Carville today. And then something else on today's program about which I am most nervous. One last thing. The poll question today at Smerconish.com asks, who's going to make fewer big mistakes between now and the election? Fewer big mistakes. Trump or Harris? Trump or Harris? Who will make fewer? They're both going to make mistakes. Who's going to make fewer big mistakes? Go vote at Smerconish.com. And finally, something about which I'm nervous in terms of the program. I tell you this in all candor, and then you can sit back and watch how it plays out. Very, very sad, devastating news. A man who has worked with me for just about the last decade. I in March, celebrated my 10-year anniversary on CNN. And for just about all of those 10 years, long time, especially in this business, a writer by the name of David Handelman. You've heard me reference him in the past. If you're a close reader of the newsletter, you've seen some commentaries that we've co-authored. He passed suddenly this week, just 63 years old, leaving behind a wife and 2 daughters. And so our tight team on my show at CNN are mourning the loss of a colleague. And I knew that he was sick. I didn't know that he was that sick. He had been a cancer survivor. And we had a very close working relationship. I think what speaks well of David, well, I have to tell you about David. David's, and I'm going to say this on TV today, and when I say I'm nervous, I want to get it right. Like if I screw up talking about Trump or Harris, it's okay. Next week will come. But I'm going to take a couple of moments at the end of the program and eulogize a colleague who's gone. And, you know that family are watching and friends are watching, and I want to say it correctly. Speaking of saying it correctly, that's one of the things that most stands out in my mind about my colleague, David Handelman. I know that he often did not agree. I think about this. He was a writer, and we would work together on my commentaries. Mostly what I would do is on a Thursday night, and this week followed the pattern without David, but I take a whack at the first version of a commentary. And then Friday morning before I go on radio, I would send it to David, and then I'm doing my radio show, and then the radio show ends and we have a collaborative CNN call, and now he would send back to me that same commentary, and then through the afternoon and into the evening. And this happened last night, even in his absence. I'm constantly tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. I think it speaks so well of him professionally that even when I was attempting to say things that he didn't agree with, he would always work hard and make sure that I was saying them properly, clearly and grammatically correct. Kind of an interesting position to be in, to write things, and I'm not saying this was always the case, but to write things that you didn't agree with. And that is the sign of a real professional, don't you think? David was a soft soul. He had a great wit, very smart, went to Harvard, and he's sadly missed. And he is sadly missed. And he was very accomplished as a Hollywood television writer. I'll make reference to some of his credits on air today, and it's really impressive stuff. So, wrote for West Wing, for Aaron Sorkin, just by way of illustration. Anyway, I feel like we have a thing going on here. Those of you who watch the Saturday morning pre-show conversation. So I wanted to tell you that's sort of the elephant in the room for today's program. Wanting to deliver a good program. I was off last week, wanting to deliver a quality program, and also wanting to remember our friend and colleague. Okay, so I'm going to go get my noggin powdered, and hope that you'll all be watching. A lot of you are watching now. I thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing to the newsletter. Thanks for listening to both of my podcasts. Proud of both of them. Give TC some play on TC After Dark. And I'll see you soon on television, I hope. See you, gang. Go vote. Go vote.